I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show on KCAA. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor, Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Go to Teamsters1932.org for more information. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, inviting you to listen to my show during the noon hour every weekday right here on KCAA. My show is sponsored locally by Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Our message is clear. Unions improve the lives of working people. You have a right to form and join a union, so go to Teamsters1932.org and get started now.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 member strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. I think President Obama was listening because I'm like, oh, hey, where's the you standing behind Biden going, this is a BFD? Well, yesterday he tweeted that out. It's a BFD. And it is. Signing the Inflation Reduction Act, big deal. Seriously, I can't emphasize enough how big of a deal this actually is, that we're going to do something. Going to do something on the climate. Finally, after 50 years of inaction, 50 years of gridlock, something's going to... Is it enough? No, not enough. So don't get all crazy. No, it's not nearly... No, it's not enough. But it's moving us in the right direction. And yes, there are concessions. That is what our system brings us. Not happy with it? Elections have consequences. Go get us some more people who think that the climate is the most important issue and we need to deal with it. That simple. But, yep, good on Joe Biden, good on the Democrats for moving this along. Now, got tons of email from folks. It's not going to reduce the deficit tomorrow. No, it's not. It was never going to do that. Over time, it will. And I've had a bunch of people go, well, it's the Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah, over time, it's going to, because it's going to bring down the cost of health care. It's going to bring down the cost of prescription drugs for seniors. Even going to bring down some energy costs. That's going to help. Energy costs being a huge driver of our inflation problems right now. And I know, Joe Biden did that. I know. Save it. But big deal. We're going to talk about that today. Got a lot on the plate today. But yesterday, the results, predictable. Liz Cheney got thumped, as was predicted. And Trump-backed Harriet Hagman is her name. She won with 2/3 of the vote, 66.3 to 28.9, a 37-point margin. That is a serious thumping, especially for an incumbent. Wow. And in true Trumpian fashion, the real class act that Harriet Hagman evidently is, she snubbed Liz Cheney's concession call, and Liz Cheney said, I left a message. I left a message, tried calling multiple times, tried to get in touch with her, ignored. Evidently, Liz Cheney says that the woman hasn't gotten back to her, and I don't expect it. This is Trump world. This is what we expect from them now. Reports are already, Liz Cheney's already putting together a presidential run, which okay, you knock yourself out. I know a lot of people are enamored by her and her courage, in this moment, and I give her credit. I have always given her credit for, in this moment, standing up for democracy, standing up for the rule of law, standing up for our Constitution, all of that stuff. I've always given her credit on that sliver. That's it. On every other front, Liz Cheney's a monster. So please don't rewrite history. She gets credit for doing the right thing in this moment. But remember, she was all on board. She was all she was in line. But to her credit, she did stand up in the moment when it mattered. And I do give her credit for this. Now she, I guess, has raised, what was it, something like $15 million for her House race, which she got seriously thumped. And look, everyone knew that was going to happen because the Republican Party is a death cult. It's what this has turned into. And sadly, what we saw, in Wyoming is just that. They're the party of Trump now. There is nothing left of the grand old party other than the logo. There's nothing left of the party of Lincoln. There's nothing left of the party of Eisenhower. Certainly not. And even the party of Reagan. No, not there. This is now fully the party of Trump. And they've been going this way for a while. They've wanted an authoritarian strongman. This is where they've been going. Now, what's interesting again, what I find kind of weird is there's a move to kind of get rid of Trump because he's too much of a lightning rod, causes too much trouble, causes too much, other people going, no, this is bad. Because the true believer crowd, one of the polls I saw recently put the absolute, the fives, the absolute, they drank not just, the cup of Kool-Aid, but the whole pitcher. And they somehow figured out how to get it into the bloodstream. They introduced it into the bloodstream, put light, into the body, so to speak. They're only about 20% of the population, which is an enormous amount. But they can be outvoted, and that has to happen because what the Republican Party is right now. Is an authoritarian nationalist cult. Because if you truly were a conservative, if you really bought that line, which I doubt most people today know what true conservatism is anymore, Liz Cheney would have been the person you would have voted for on that side of the aisle. Because she checked off all of the conservative boxes. She did. I mean, honestly, all of the horrible policies she was on board with, all of the bad tax stuff, all of the bad anti-worker stuff, she's there. Policy-wise, if you're a conservative, she is in 100% in the crazy corner. But because she had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to speak out against the Donald and see what happened on January 6th as the abomination that it was, well, she's got to go. Got to go. You could be right on everything else. And this is the problem with cults. This is the problem. You've got to be 100% on board or you're out. You got to be 100% in the circle of trust, or like Robert De Niro in that stupid movie, you're out. That simple. And she's out. And boy, did she get out. Now, in her concession speech, she did talk about the fact that there are candidates for Secretary of State across the country who refuse to report the actual results of the popular vote in future elections. This is a problem. She said no American should support election deniers for any position of genuine responsibility where their refusal to follow the rule of law will corrupt our future. Now, I agree with her on that. Absolutely. We found common ground. This is where I believe we can find some common ground. And he is as big of a monster as I think Liz Cheney is, the spawn of the devil, if you will. There are things that we agree on. She says that she finished up by saying that she's concerned with election deniers are marching towards power in key 2024 battlegrounds. And my state of Pennsylvania, we got a guy running for governor who I truly believe, if he's elected governor, doesn't matter who the people of Pennsylvania vote for. They will figure out how to get the right person, the one that they want. So, yeah, I'm curious how this is going to play out going forward, how Democrats have made kind of a gamble in backing some crazy candidates. Going to be interesting to see how this goes. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Did want to chime in with a couple of emails that I got that I wanted to address because I'm not quite sure how to take this. But Emma sent me an email. She wrote, I've been watching you for years on YouTube and loved the show. Recently, you look tired and sad. I hope everything's okay. You've given hope and inspiration to so many of us during the dark times of the Trump years. I'd hate to see anything happen to you. Wishing you the best. Emma. Emma, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I would have let it go if it was just Emma. But Janet also wrote, hey, Rick, everything all right with you? You look down. During the Trump years, you kept me going, giving me hope that everything was going to be okay. And things are looking up. Chin up. Keep up the good fight. Hope everything's okay. Everything's fine. I'm doing fine. Little drawn down, though. When you're dealing with destroyers and people who want to rip things apart and tear things down, it's a little taxing. And I'm in a moment right now where I see opportunity, I see hope, because I do this program. Started this program because I'm an activist. I'm someone who wants to make lives better. As a union organizer, as a union activist, it was my want to ensure that everybody had the opportunity that I've had in my lifetime to go from growing up in a housing project to living in a very solid middle class existence. That my kids are never going to see the despair, the violence, the man's inhumanity to man, if you will, that I grew up with. And I see so much energy and so much time and money being spent on ripping us apart. Some of it's outside, some of it's from other countries like Russia. I know it's all a hoax. It's all a hoax, Rick. Don't believe it. Don't believe all that Russian money going into media spaces and right-wing provocateurs. Don't believe it. But the reality is there are forces out there that are trying to rip us apart. And I get a little frustrated, a little angry, and I'm sorry if that shows, because I am more passionate now than I have been in a very long time that we can make lives better, that there are people who have real ideas, that Democrats are getting things done. And look, I'm generally somebody who beats up on Democrats pretty good, because when they need a good drumming, I'm there. I got the sticks. I wish there were a functional Republican Party that cared about workers. I wish they had some ideas on how to move us forward. I wish there were some conservative ideas that say, hey, no, we're about making lives better too, other than just greed for the handfuls. But Emma, Janet, going to be just fine. I think we're all going to be just fine. We're going to get through this rough patch, and on the other side, things are going to be better. But thank you. I appreciate it. And anybody else who's concerned, I appreciate it. Thank you. And for those of you who aren't and want to send angry emails and try and bring me down, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I do answer all angry emails personally. They go to the top. They actually. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, what's the future of work look like in this country? And where do the corporate masters want to take this? I've talked about the Lochner era for a while. I'm thinking something just as bad, if not worse, is coming around the corner. Stick around. You're going to want to find out.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
So as you know, I'm a big supporter of the PRO Act. I'm a big supporter of workers being able to join and form unions, collectively bargaining for better wages, hours, conditions of voice on the job, job security, all of those things. Ensuring that they have some bit of power to negotiate and claim some of the wealth that their labor creates. I look to the past and say, this is what built the most prosperous working class in the history of civilization. Unity, togetherness, collective action, those things worked well for the working class. I'm now seeing a massive push on social media, in our legal documents that are being put out, a Supreme Court that seems to want us to move us back towards the Lochner era, which for those who don't know, was a time from around 1905 to about 1935, where every piece of legislation, from maximum hour laws to minimum wage laws to working condition laws, all that stuff were set aside, ruled unconstitutional under the guise of liberty of contract. You have the right to contract however you choose. It's the individual right. It's your God-given right to make a bad deal. And I'm generally not opposed to it until your idiocy affects me. And this is where this goes. So by you and you and you and you going, yeah, well, we're desperate. We're going to work for poverty wages in horrible conditions. We'll do that because we're desperate and we need the money. it pulls things down for everybody. That means everybody's going to have to compete at the bottom level. And I've always said we want to be competing on the right things. Who's the most productive? Who invents the best widget? Not who's willing to slit each other's throats for pennies. But right now, what we're hearing is a lot of the same rhetoric of the Lochner era. Freedom has replaced liberty, though. Freedom. It's your freedom to be an independent contractor. It's your freedom to be a gig worker. It's your freedom. And they've sold it kind of like, well, you know, the 21st century, we need a new employment model to meet the needs of the new century. And, you know, that old, outdated stuff that you're talking about, Rick, just too restrictive. I hear that all the time. And it's nonsense. It's absolute bunk. Also, I hear, you know, young people, they want a new model. They don't want their grandparents' workplace. They want flexibility and choice. And all that stuff sounds great until you realize what it means. It means shifting of responsibility. It means shifting of risk onto the individual instead of the corporation. And what I'm talking about is you look at these gig workers. And gig work is fine. We've always had it. In places where people are truly their own boss, where they choose their own work schedule, they do their own work, they choose their own path, they wear their own clothes, they have their own code of conduct, they don't have to sign on to a long list of must-dos, not drive the company logoed van that you lease from the company and wear their clothing. And no, people who are truly self-directed can pick and choose the work that they want to do or don't want to do. That's truly an independent contractor. That's truly somebody who is their own small business. And I'm all in favor of that. We absolutely need that. But I look at some companies, and there's a company that delivers stuff to people's homes quite often, where there's now a couple of them, where the person who's wearing the clothing doesn't work for the company that the clothing says. The name on the side of the van or the truck, not the company they work for. And that company tells them where they have to go, when they have to be there, what they have to do, how they have to do it, a whole code of conduct, and all of this down the line. But no, they don't work for that company. We've allowed that to happen. Now corporate America wants to go further because, you know, that pesky minimum wage, that pesky 1938 Fair Labor Standards Act with the minimum wage and the maximum hour laws, you know, the overtime, just too much. And what we have found is a Democrat and a couple of Republicans, Henry Cuellar from Texas, who conservative Democrat, which I would have liked to have seen him ousted in the last primary, and Republican Representatives Elise Stefanik and Michelle Steele. They introduced the Worker Flexibility and Choice Act. Because who could possibly be against worker flexibility and choice? Who could be against that, Rick? Don't you want flexibility and choice? Isn't that what you want? It's like right to work. Shouldn't everyone have the right to work? And we know the right to work language is nonsense. You're working for less, a lot less. There's no rights, and there's no work. So right to work, I'm confused at your definition. But it's what they've sold us on. So this is going to be the new kind of right to work language. Worker Flexibility and Choice Act. And what this is going to do, if they were to get it passed, and right now it's dead in the water, but it's something that they're going to spend a lot of time, energy, and money on over the next years, because this is really what corporate America wants. They want to bring back, you know, those good old loyalty pledges and those yellow dog contracts of the past. Only this one would be a worker flexibility agreement. And you could choose to sign this worker flexibility agreement. And by signing this, you would deem yourself an independent contractor, and you would not be covered under the Fair Labor Standards Act, which means no overtime, no minimum wage, no child labor laws either, I would guess. That would be gone. And now you're truly your own boss. You could work for pennies. If, because that's it. Now you go, but Rick, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with me saying I want to sign the worker flexibility agreement? Well, nothing. If you truly had a choice. But what we know from these things, what we've learned from the past is, well, there isn't a choice. There isn't. When the industry goes in this way, how many employees does Lyft and Uber have? Oh, that's right, none. Were they given the choice to be employees or to be independent contractors? No, they weren't given a choice. They were said, you're an independent contractor. Follow these rules. And people were desperate looking for jobs. I was sold on the idea that I can be my own boss. I'm going to make good money. And for most people that I've talked to who do it, it's a tax cheat. That's how they make their money. They make their money off of tax cheat. Because you can write off the mileage, you can write off the car, you can write off all of your expenses like a business does. And for a couple of years, you can operate at a loss. Thus, you end up paying the car off and all that stuff. So it's a big tax cheat, and they know this. Now imagine, you're now working in a warehouse, you're working on an assembly line, you're working in an insurance office, you're working, in a healthcare field, you're working in a hospital with doctors and nurses, and now they're all people who have signed the Worker Flexibility and Choice Act. They're not actually workers. They're all independent contractors. They're all doing their own thing while being directed by a boss. But they don't have any labor rights. And they're not covered by unemployment. They're not covered by workers' comp. They're not going to get Social Security or pay into Medicare. This is a massive destruction of most of the foundational institutions of the working class. And what it's going to do, if they get their way, is create a permanent poverty class. And that's the plan. The plan is to have desperate, pliable workers who don't cause problems by wanting to organize, don't demand things like wage increases or health care. They're just happy to get the pennies that they can put food on the table at the end of the day. That, unfortunately, is the world they want to take us to. This is dangerous. And the moneyed interests, the huge moneyed interests, are going full tilt. And I love it. The Coalition for Workforce Innovation. Because who could be against workforce innovation? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Wherever you get yours, you'll find ours. Back after this.
Calling all builders, all welders and roofers, engineers and electricians. Calling all brick masons and boiler makers, steel workers and steam fitters. Your country is calling you to rebuild America, to create a cleaner, safer, more prosperous future for all. Tackling climate change, this is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
So again, thrilled by the fact that Joe Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act. Like I said earlier, going to help with the cost of health care, especially for seniors. That is a good thing, but also going to help us address the climate issue. And, I've been saying for the longest time, we need massive investment in moving away from the dirty stuff into the new, cleaner technologies. And I know I've had a bunch of, conservatives, we tried this during the Obama years, Solyndra. Yeah, we didn't really try. So for me, this hopefully going to move us in the direction of making sure that solar panels are on people's homes and on businesses. I've had them on my house for years, love them, but also wanted to be made here in this country, and here to share some thoughts on how we make sure that happens. I've asked our good friend Scott Paul to come talk with us. Scott is the president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, AmericanManufacturing.org, their website. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, it is great to be with you.
So, a pretty big deal today. The president signing this Inflation Reduction Act. And I know everyone's going to say, well, it wasn't enough. It wasn't the Build Back Better. It should have been bigger, should have been chunkier. I agree. But take the win. Take the win.
Yeah, it is I mean, this is a huge victory. And even I think the possibility of an investment this large, say, 3, 4 years ago would have seemed impossible or before that as well, right? And so, so sure. I mean, in ideal world, you can spend $1 trillion on this, but the fact that the Senate was able to thread the needle with Democrats and work with the administration and with progressives too, and get something that is going to have a sustained, meaningful impact, not only on climate, but on the future of jobs in America. Because there's obviously mechanisms to create demand for renewable energy in the United States. But the open question, Rick, is where do we source the equipment from?
Exactly.
Where does that come from? Is it going to come from China? Is it going to come from Europe? Or is it going to be homegrown? And this investment and some of the policy incentives that accompany it make it more likely than ever that much more of this is going to be homegrown, and that we are finally going to be able to scale up EV manufacturing, battery manufacturing, solar manufacturing, wind turbine manufacturing right here in the United States of America.
Now, I've been reading a lot of conservative commentators who are saying there's just no way we can compete in this space. There's no way that we can build solar panels. Our wages are too high. We can't compete with the low-road Chinese. We can't compete with their subsidies. We can't compete with basically slave labor. We can't compete in the battery technology because, well, I guess we gave that away years ago. What do you say to that argument, that defeatist argument that, you know what, we just can't compete. Our costs are too high. We got too many regulations, those job-killing regulations, Scott. We just can't do it. Sorry, man.
Yeah, they're completely wrong about that. And there's a couple of things that that exist in our economy right now that prove them wrong. But let's look at aerospace, for instance. We have really high wages in aerospace. A large sector of that industry is unionized, and we have the best aerospace industry in the world. It's the envy of the world. It's the standard, and it's because there's policy, and part of that is obviously the defense contracts that these companies are able to secure that aid in the civilian side research and development and innovation. Another example is pickup trucks. Right, a lot of manufacturing went overseas in automobiles. Pickup trucks did not, because there is a 25% tariff on imported pickup trucks. So if you have a mechanism like that, you can make it work. And right back at conservatives here, there was concern, obviously, that we were too dependent on foreign oil, over the last couple of decades. And so conservatives put into place a policy of subsidies for the oil and gas industry and fracking, and that put aside your opinion about it, but it unquestionably scaled up in the United States to a remarkable degree. And again, this is an industry that pays better than average wages compared to anywhere around the world. So the idea that we can't do that in renewables is just a folly. It's a canard, and conservatives, I think, are just upset because first of all, we're going to see this shift, and second of all, I think it's going to be very, very successful.
Now, I hope so, because here's my problem is we're going to have this investment. We're going to be moving down this road, and we've seen this movie before. When I was a kid growing up, I remember Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House. I remember being super excited about the fact that really we're going to take the energy from the sun and we're going to be able to do stuff. That's fabulous. It's amazing. Jetson kind of stuff. And then Reagan came in, first thing, rip it off, and here we are all these years later, still on the dirty stuff. I fear, we're right back there. We're beginning, we're moving, going to start, and then the next wave comes in, and we don't touch this again for another couple of decades.
Yeah. that is obviously a concern. Okay, and there's no question about it. And there's too many kind of naysayers and climate deniers and others who don't believe in this path for whatever reason. Okay, but I also think that when there is a broader take-up among consumers of things like the Ford F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck made in America, that I think will become ubiquitous across, country roads in red states as well. They'll like not paying for any gasoline. I think that's going to be that's going to be pretty handy. And put the solar panels on the roof. Your energy bills go down. I think there's a lot of consumers that are going to like that. And along with it, Rick, the manufacturers that are locating. I mean, you're seeing, solar manufacturers located in Georgia. You'll have semiconductor manufacturers locate in Texas. You're going to have an electric vehicle supply chain all up and down the industrial heartland from Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, all on down to Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia. And so I do think that changes the political dynamics quite a bit, even if they may have disagreed with the philosophy or this legislation at one time.
Well, we'll see. I'm hopeful. Like I said, today, the signing of the bill gives me some hope that we're moving in the right direction. I just wish we'd have done it sooner, especially given the fact that most of this technology is stuff that was developed here. Yeah. And that we ended up giving away. I mean, the advantage that we had years ago of developing this technology and then allowing the Chinese to either retro-engineer it or just we flat out gave it to them or they stole it. We're behind in this game at this moment. And I find that to be really troubling given the fact that we were at one point, had we the vision and the foresight and the investment so far ahead, now we're playing catch up.
Yeah. We're certainly playing catch up, and we're playing a dangerous game as well because we have, in some cases, countries like China are essentially the single source for a lot of this stuff, and that's dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous to have a single source for a lot of different reasons. It's even more dangerous to have a single source that may have geopolitical goals that are not aligned with our own.
Yeah, right? Hello, pandemic. The pandemic's calling to remind us of how bad our supply chain's been broken because our manufacturing is overseas.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I think there's a realization, certainly among this administration, and I will say even among some conservatives, that like having Uyghur enslaved people make polysilicon for solar panels that are going to the United States is not good for a number of moral, ethical, economic, lots of different reasons, okay? And I think the same thing for some of these minerals that go into our batteries, like lithium-ion batteries. And so I do think there's a deeper appreciation for that. But you're right. I mean, the problem is, and I'm not going to blame conservatives as much as I am going to blame like big businesses here. The big businesses loved to write the policy, and they did write the policy that opened up China for manufacturing back to the United States of America with no or virtually no tariffs, and made a deal with the devil with the Chinese Communist Party on this. Yep. And at the end of the day, we lost a lot of manufacturing jobs. As you indicated, we either gave these technologies away or they were stolen or borrowed, I guess, and we made ourselves vulnerable. And so this ship hasn't turned all the way around, right? Because we still have a lot of vulnerabilities, but I think there's greater awareness than ever. And with this Inflation Reduction Act, with the CHIPS Act that was signed last week with respect to semiconductors and other technology products, and with the investment in infrastructure that we saw, I think there's this understanding that we got to get our act together. Yep. We can't let those big businesses write the rules because they don't have our jobs interest, our security interest at heart.
No, they got their profit interests. It's that simple. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Scott Paul. Scott's the president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, AmericanManufacturing.org, the website, if you want to check out the work that they do. I want to change gears a little bit. I know you were at the Steelworkers Convention last week. And I'm sure the CHIPS Act came up because that means jobs and manufacturing. I'm sure, all of, this Inflation Reduction Act was probably something that came up because, again, it's going to mean jobs in a lot of places. Curious how things play out there at the convention.
Yeah, it's it's good. Like I'm trying to, it's a good test market, Rick, because there are working people from all over the country in manufacturing there, and vastly different backgrounds, right? So some are from rural areas, some are from smaller cities, some are from the South. Some are from demographics that are, I think, frequently associated with Trump voters, right? And so it's interesting to see what folks were saying. And here's the interesting thing: in virtually every case, their factories were hiring all over the country, and that's obviously a good thing. And in places where they had profit sharing checks or other things like that, they were pretty good, right? Because manufacturing has been scaling up. In fact, we've added 600,000 plus manufacturing jobs since the beginning of the Biden administration, which is the most going back to 1990 for a period like that.
Yeah, but I thought everything was horrible. I thought the sky was falling and the economy was collapsing, and we were in recession, and Joe Biden did that, and I thought it was horrible. In fact, I just heard earlier. A crude a day is $20. To get vegetables for a crude a day, carrots and broccoli, $20.
Right. Well, look, I'm not going to say that inflation was not a concern, right? And clearly, when they're bargaining, they're thinking about getting wage increases that are going to offset some of that inflation, which is coming down, of course, right? And so. But I also think, and they had, they heard from Labor Secretary Walsh, they heard from Trade Ambassador Catherine Tai, they had a video recording from the president. The vice president went to Las Vegas to speak to the steelworkers, and there was a very pro-worker, pro-union message across the board. And the fact that a trade ambassador came to the steelworkers and basically said, we've got your backs, right? We're going to do trade enforcement. You're always going to have a seat at the table. Candidly, that's never been the case, even in a Democratic administration.
It's about time.
Before. So yeah, that was super, super encouraging. Yeah.
No, it's about time, and that's why I'm thrilled with this administration, and I think doing a great job to this moment. And this Inflation Reduction Act going to be helpful. Again, wasn't big enough. I thought it should have been more, but that's why tomorrow we wake up and we organize for the future. It is that simple. I wanted to get your thoughts also. Tim Ryan, I love Tim Ryan in Ohio. Hope he wins. But he's talking about pushing the idea of Made in America on the solar front.
This is a step in addition to that Inflation Reduction Act, where the public purchases could make a big difference in scaling up solar manufacturing. And so right now, the U.S. government buys solar power, and oftentimes that's not done directly. That's done through contracts, right, or through through third parties. And in those, there's not a Buy America requirement right now. When it's purchased directly, there will be. But Tim Ryan saying, wait. Even if it's a contractor, that solar energy should be procured with panels that are made in the United States. And so we strongly support that effort. I know Tim Ryan, in Ohio, there's a major solar manufacturer in Toledo, one of the few in the United States. But there's others around the country as well. And so I think it would be a big step to do this. And I think it's the right signal for the administration to send that they're serious about scaling up solar panel production in the U.S.
And the larger you make the scale, the prices come down. That's your supply and demand thing.
Exactly right.
That's how that works. But Scott, I appreciate the time, the information. As always, great stuff. Keep up the great work.
You bet, Rick. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Our good friend Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. Make sure you check out the work that they do, AmericanManufacturing.org. Going to take a quick break. Back with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
As Vladimir Putin wages war, oil companies are making billions by price gouging us at the pump, and Republicans are helping them do it. They took millions from big oil and blocked a clean energy plan that will lower costs for families. They're leaving us dependent on oil and at the mercy of foreign dictators. Congressional Republicans in the pockets of big oil against American-made clean energy. It all means higher profits for oil companies and higher gas prices for us.
1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Let's go to the phones. We got CJ from Madison on line 1. CJ, how are you today?
I am good. Thanks again for taking my call, Rick.
Sure, what's on your mind, buddy?
You know, companies pass their costs on to their customers. And the Congressional Budget Office scored this thing, and they said it's going to do nothing to fight inflation, at least for a number of years. And there was a senator, I believe his name, from Idaho, Mike Crapo, tried to get an amendment to this bill, this disaster bill that is going to raise taxes. He tried to
raise taxes on corporate America. You're right. Yeah, you're right. On those stock buybacks that are so wonderful and that we love so much. Go ahead.
Well, he tried, Crapo tried to get an amendment that would exempt people that made less than $400,000 from being targeted by the IRS. You know which party fought that and blew that down? The Democrats. Guaranteed business owners are terrified. They're going to get attacked by the new $87,000.
Don't cheat on your taxes. Here's the fun part in this. Don't cheat on your taxes. How hard is that? Don't break the law. CJ, don't break the law.
What? You don't think we could use that other $8 billion
CJ, how hard is it to not break the law? I know you guys on the right, seem to be okay with breaking the law these days. Don't break the law. How hard is that?
Who's saying break the law?
Don't
Rick?
break.
I'm not saying
You're the
break
one who
the law.
seems to be so afraid that there are going to be people who are going to be checking out your tax return. Don't break the law.
Have you ever been audited?
No, because I pay my taxes, CJ.
That doesn't have a thing to do with it. How many employees do you have, Rick?
I got one, me.
Yeah, there you go. Well, trust me, there's people out there. Most of these people are small business owners that file singular Class S corporations, and they're going to be attacked. And you know what it's going to cost? The CBO said it's going to cost jobs. You're Democrats, all this thing about
it's
kind
of bizarre that you got all the jobs back from the pandemic plus some, and yet again you guys are with the fear and it's going to cost these job killing regulations. Oh, we can't tax rich people. I'm tired, CJ. I got to move on to other callers. I appreciate the thoughts, buddy. Thanks so much. Let's go to line 3. We got Alice on line 3. How we doing, Alice?
Oh, I'm doing okay. That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's all about fear. It's all about scaring. Oh, they're coming for you. Well, don't break the law. How's that?
Exactly. I'm not worried about the IRS. And I'm not worried about the FBI because I'm not selling secrets or espionage or stealing classified documents. It's ridiculous. But what I wanted to say was, with this law being signed, and I'm with you, it's a basis to work on. And the thing is, and as fired up as people are, because people are just sick and tired of the Republican Party and the right wing. I mean, this last, he waved his hands and, declassified stuff and it's all a hoax kind of nonsense. People are fed up. And if I think for, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years, maybe longer, can maintain the majority in Congress, the Democrats I'm speaking of, by the way. So you little right-wingers out there, get out your hankies and cry because, I'm a big, bad Democrat. I think if we can retain the White House in the majority, that we might be able to get things a little bit back on track in this nation. Because it's just ridiculous. We're supposed to be a first world country, the leader of the free world, and it's ridiculous. We have women dying. We're worried about, they're screaming about the Taliban, the women over there, and it's like, well, have you seen what the Republicans are doing to the women over here? I mean, the only thing we've got is a bunch of rich people running things, and everybody else is suffering. So you have a good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate the thoughts. Look, I'm not concerned about the IRS coming and doing their jobs. In fact, when you look at the numbers, it's just getting us back to where we were, several years ago before they were gutting the IRS. Because again, conservatives are very afraid of the IRS. Because again, when you go back to 2010, 11, when they were, again, breaking the law, because they were all, misfiling their groups as tax exempt. Not surprised that the IRS did their job and went after them. But then it was, no, they're targeting us. Nobody was targeting you specifically. They were targeting lawbreakers. And that's what we want. We want people who are going to pay their taxes. I got to pay mine. Do I want to defend the IRS? No, I'm just unhappy with them as anybody else. But if you want good schools, you want roads, you want bridges, you want a military, you want to have your adventures overseas, you got to pay for it. And you look at the fact that we've got billionaires who pay less in taxes than their secretaries. When you've got massive multi-billion-dollar profitable companies paying less than the mom and pops on Main Street, there's a serious problem here. And to have an entire group of folks who have been trained like Pavlovian dogs to any time they hear the word tax or IRS to start foaming and fight against it, it's kind of remarkable. You have to really give credit to what the right wing's been able to accomplish in training a generation to react instead of thinking about what's going on. It's amazing, really. Quite remarkable. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Are you concerned? Are you afraid? You think the IRS is coming for you? Are they going to kick in your door with the AR-14s? Like Senator Grassley said, is that our future? rick@thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
It doesn't happen like we think it does. No one rolls the tanks. No armies meet in pitched battle. It happens quietly, little by little. And because so many think it can't happen, it does happen. Little by little, the rules change. It doesn't seem shocking or sudden. And that's the point. Fewer places to vote, longer lines. Don't worry, they say. We're just improving the system. They hope we won't notice the rules are changing because they lost the last election. They hope we just won't care enough to stop them. They believe they can take America away from us, and we won't even notice. We know who they are. We know what they want. The question is, who are we? Do we let them get away with it, or do we fight? Democracy is on the ballot. Vote while your vote still counts. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Also, I want to get to this real quick. The abortion issue not going away. A couple of stories caught my attention. One from Louisiana. Evidently, a woman down there is being forced Evidently, she has a week to make this decision. She's either going to have to carry a fetus to term that is missing part of its skull, or going to have to go to Florida to have an abortion. As she said, I know I'm carrying it to bury it, one way or the other. Just a matter of time. Top of the skull's missing. Don't know how you're going to fix that. But because of their law, because of how screwed up we are in this moment, she's going to have to carry that to term. Or as I'm going, why would you go to Florida? Crazy. Also, Florida. No, I got that wrong. She was going to have to go out of state somewhere, not to Florida. I screwed that up. My next story is about Florida. Evidently, a girl in Florida, 16-year-old, parentless, a court has ordered that she be prohibited from terminating her pregnancy. And I love the argument here. She's not sufficiently mature to make that decision. But she is sufficiently mature to be someone's mother. Let that sink in for a second. This is how crazy we have become in this country. You talk about common sense being common. No, not so much. We are in really, really bizarre territory. And I saw this story from West Virginia, where Jim Justice, the governor there, said that the voters shouldn't be able to decide the state's abortion policy. It should be the legislature. A bunch of old angry white guys. And it's one of those things where you go, I thought you were thought this issue was a winner with the people. No, not so much, because they saw what happened in Kansas. And this is where Republicans are kind of freaking out, because they really thought the country was with them. They really thought that they were doing the Lord's work, if you will. And what they found out is, no, the majority of the country is like me. Not horribly in favor of it, but not against it. Definitely not making it unsafe and illegal. Definitely not criminalizing women's choices. Definitely not forcing them into carrying fetuses that are already dead. Definitely not doing the things that we're doing to a generation of women. And look, it's going to get worse. And the reason I bring this up is it's going to get worse. And we know it's going to get worse, because these people don't run out of bad ideas. Conservatives and our Republican friends never run out of bad ideas. Our Christian friends, they're the people of punishment, of pain and punishment. You suffer. You made bad choices, bad for you. And now you're going to suffer for the rest of your life. This is who these people making these decisions, this is who they are. And I've said for years, ultimately, this is going to be something that as a nation, we're going to have to figure out again. We did once. We figured it out once. And it was okay for a while. And now the loonies have taken over again. And Jim Justice, what he knows is, if you can keep it in the General Assembly where they've gerrymandered districts and there's no real competition and you can scare people.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5